What's up, guys? Welcome back to Hands On channel. I wanted to make a quick prepping video here. For weeks and weeks now, I've been watching different alternative news sites, and they've all been talking about basically the same thing. The supply chain is breaking down again, whether it be from employment shortages where they can't get people to come and fill the jobs, or whether it be, trucker strikes and all manner of other things. 6 GM plants shut down, and a Nissan plant and a Ford plant shut down here in the United States because of the shortage of microchips to get these new vehicles going, anyways, there's going to be a chain reaction from all of that stuff. Companies that do delivery and stuff like that, or do service type industries that were, scheduled to buy new vehicles this year, are now having to use their older vehicles longer and put money into those vehicles. And it causes every little thing that happens when everything is so interconnected like this, causes a cascading effect or a chain reaction throughout the system. So another really big sign that I'm seeing, though, and I know this is going to sound weird, but this was a key sign before the last supply chain, disruptions back in 2020. When we first started seeing that, what did everybody do? Everybody ran out and got toilet paper, which I think is the craziest thing that you could go out and stock up on. But I'm seeing signs of that again. Now, I haven't personally seen that locally, but I've been reading articles from around the country where people are starting to stockpile toilet paper again. So I'm not saying go out and buy toilet paper. There are 1,000 different ways to deal with that. Toilet paper should be your last thing. But for whatever reason, the last time around, during the last panic, everyone turned into the Great Cornholio here in America, and they all needed TP for their bungholes. They thought that was the most important thing that they should have in their prepper stockpile. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but that's probably the last thing you need to think about. An old timer told me years ago that back in the days when they used to use outhouses and stuff like that, none of them had bog roll or toilet paper nearby in the outhouse. What they had was like an old J.C. Penney catalog, or an old newspaper that they, the Sunday newspaper or whatever, and they would take it, and while they were sitting there doing their business, they'd be wadding this up and trying to soften it up. I'm sure if you've ever been a kid, you've probably done this in the past, and you just maybe don't remember it. But if you wad this stuff up over and over and over while you're sitting there, on your throne doing your business, you've got plenty of time to do that. You've got nothing else to do, because if we're off grid, you won't be able to sit there on your cell phone or whatever you do, or any devices or anything like that. So while you're wadding it up, basically what you're doing is you're softening this up. So one of the things that, you could stockpile right now, and it wouldn't take up very much space, is a lot of old newspapers and things like that. I wouldn't recommend, the glossy covered magazines, but these newspapers like this are excellent. So they'll get your bunghole clean and won't cost you anything other than a little bit of time sitting there wadding it up. So toilet paper is the last thing that you need to be worried about stocking up on. But because we're living in an idiocracy now, and the majority of people in the United States are just, there's not really a nice way to say it. I'm just going to say it. They're just barely above retarded or retarded, because toilet paper should have been the last thing they should have. If I'd have gone to the store and all the beans would have been gone and all the rice would have been gone, I would have been disappointed. But at the same time, I would have been proud that my fellow Americans were stockpiling on the things that will keep them alive, not toilet paper. You need to be worried about food, water, and how you're going to defend your preps in a SHTF. So I'm seeing signs, guys, again, over and over and over. Not even worth me going through. There's so many different things that, for me to pinpoint one thing would be asinine. There are so many different things that are attacking our supply chain. The number one problem we have is inept leadership. We've got basically Sleepy Joe asleep at the helm of the Titanic, and we've already hit the iceberg. Pelosi and Schumer and McConnell and many of the other senators and congressmen are standing around playing the violin while we're all seeing if there's enough lifeboats for us to get off this sinking vessel, because we have a major shift happening in the United States of America right now. You can look around and see all the things going on here at home and globally. Everything that they're doing is to break the back and the spirit of the American people, especially the patriots. So I would argue that we're heading for potentially more lockdowns in the future, more forced Vs. I mean, that's pretty obvious. They're talking more and more about the deal in Australia where they have the QR code to be able to leave their house. And I'm hearing lots of just really over-the-top Orwellian stuff happen over in Australia. And the only reason I would argue that it's not happening here right now is because we still have the Second Amendment. And for how long, I don't know. The way they're pecking away at all of our rights, I mean, in the mind of the people in control right now, you know, Obama and Hillary, whoever else, Susan Rice, all the people that are controlling Biden behind the scenes, everything's on the table. They're trying to destroy the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. So anyways, prep now, stock up now. I think it's going to be very important for you to get ahead of this next supply chain disruption, and it could be at your grocery store. So I would honestly probably put most of my focus on food and water right now. Medical supplies also, you know, especially if you're somebody that is depending on medical supplies for your survival. And, you know, emergency medical supplies so that when you do get hurt doing stuff that you're not used to doing, you'll be able to take care of that stuff. And you probably want to have some books on medicine and how to do like field surgery and stuff like that. Just different things that you're not thinking about right now. I think a lot of preppers have this idea in their head that, you know, maybe they're living in the suburbs right now, or they're living in the outskirts of the city or whatever. And they have this idea in their head that they're going to take their, you know, prepper seeds and they're going to go out and basically start a farm and just immediately become farmers, and everything's going to just work out and they're going to have all the food and stuff they need and they're going to survive, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the reality. The reality is farming is a skill. You have to work at that for years and years. And I'm not even there. I mean, we've got the land to work on it. We've got some of the key components. You know, I'm just now developing the land to where it's even possible to make hay and stuff like that. But I had to get a tractor. I had to learn how to use the tractor. I had to get the implements that I need for the tractor. I still don't have all those implements. There's a lot to it, especially if you want to do any kind of real sustainable garden. I mean, putting in a garden because you like to have fresh fruits and vegetables once in a while is one thing for a hobby, but we're talking about enough to sustain you and your family. That is a lot of work. I mean, that's a lot of work. You don't realize it right now how convenient everything is and how good we have it because we're spoiled to it. And I would still stock up on seeds. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from doing that, but I'm just saying that, you know, there's a lot of people that have this idea that they're going to go out there and just start becoming Johnny Appleseed and everything they do is going to work and everything's going to grow and they're not going to have any crop failures and they're not going to starve to death. But just because you have a garden out there, if those fruits and vegetables aren't ripe at that time, you can have the best looking garden in the world and still starve because you're waiting on harvest. So there's just a lot to it. You got to learn how to do canning. You got to learn how to do, you know, meat preservation without refrigeration. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things to really think about. And that's more for if the grid goes down, obviously. You know, if the grid stays up and you still have a job and you can afford to pay the electric company, then yeah, you can put as much stuff in your freezer as you want. But I would argue as they continue to put the squeeze on us, the grid doesn't necessarily have to even collapse for many, many people to not be able to have electricity again because they're trying to make our energy prices necessarily skyrocket, just like Obama said back in 2008, I believe it was. So this is all part of their globalist agenda plan. I don't see anybody putting up any resistance to it. I don't think I've ever heard any of the mainstream politicians, the ones that I even like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gates and all these other people, the people that I tend to like, I've never heard them come out and say what this really is. This is the New World Order takeover of everything. You know, it's Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. It's Operation Lockstep. It's Event 201. There was a cyber deal, Cyber Polygon. Cyber Polygon attack that they planned for, you know, Klaus Schwab and all his people at the World Economic Forum. You know, they think a cyber attack will be even more devastating than COVID-19. So, guys, they've got all kinds of plans. And the sovereignty of the United States and individual liberty and self-governance are not in those plans. In fact, they're roadblocks to their plans. So they're trying to do everything they can to kick that leg, our last leg, out from underneath us. So I advise you to stock up on everything you can now, including ammunition and firepower, because they're coming. Whether it be through their V task force that they're sending door to door, or maybe in the future it'll be a firearms task force that they're going to send door to door. But they're coming, and they're coming for everything that we hold dear here in the United States of America. It's more than just the supply chain. This thing, you have to look at the whole painting to be able to see what's going to happen next. And hopefully you guys that tune into the channel and follow the channel, hopefully you're already doing that. I don't have to tell you nothing. But yeah, all of these pieces are falling into place. They want the supply chain to collapse because of the chaos that ensues. Cloward and Piven, their whole philosophy was overwhelm the system, and that could be any system, whether that be the energy system, the supply chain, all this other stuff. They want to overwhelm the system so that then the federal government has to come in and say, oh, we can save you from the system. We can save you from this. We're going to redo it, and we're going to make it a federalized system. That way this will never happen again. And all the soft heads out there will go, oh, okay, cool. This is a great idea. We'll never starve again. But the people that know about individual liberty and self-governance will go, oh my God, this is it. This is the takeover of everything. So guys, be prepared for anything. Stock up on food, water, ammunition, medical supplies, textiles and clothing and shoes and stuff like that, boots, everything you're going to need. Toilet paper is the last thing you need to be worried about. It's basically, if you ain't putting anything in right here, you ain't going to have to worry much about wiping back there. So stop being cornholios, America. Get real and stock up on stuff that's going to keep you alive in the SHTF.